Hello and welcome to the Letter to My Children podcast, where I interview top performing business owners, fitness entrepreneurs, and just people that I've met on my journey who can share their story, share what they've gone through, how they got to where they got to, and also just the things they've learned on their lessons so that my children in the future and your children in the future can live a better life from the knowledge and experience we've gone through. I'm going to introduce today a girl that I met nearly 3 years ago, edging on being one of my longest serving clients. She has gone leaps and bounds from when I met her. Confidence is through the roof. The fact that she's impacting lives in the way she is now is phenomenal, but also just getting out of her own way has been massive for her. And she recently was a role model to a lot of our other Identity Unlock clients, which was massive for her. And it was a great moment for her to realise just how far she's come. So I would like to introduce Anna to the show.
Hi.
So I won't deny Anna's a little bit nervous about this. Opening up's always been a little bit of an interesting thing. But give us some context, just how you got into fitness.
I think I, like a lot of people, went through my own kind of transformation, but I pretty much spent majority of my 20s really, really unhappy. Like, I hated everything about me. I hated how I looked. I hated how clothes would fit me. I just hated everything, and I just remember being always miserable, being really aggy, and I knew that something had to change, and nothing was going to change until I actually took that step. So I'm kind of frustrated because it got me to it. I didn't realize up until it was like it just went so the other way that the coming back was a lot harder. So that really was frustrating, but that frustration almost kind of drove me to push even harder. So I kind of went on to hire my first coach, and it kind of all spiraled out of there, really. I got so into everything. I got so nerdy about how it all works and why is this happening, why is this working, that I thought, right, I can do this. I know that there's a lot of people out there that feel the same way that I do, that feel really stuck, that feel really unhappy in their own bodies, that can't even stand to look in the mirror, to the point where they would avoid mirrors or even completely remove them from the house. So I thought to myself, I can really help those people. And that's kind of where it started. So I went on to get my qualification and started helping people around me. I just started helping friends. That's kind of where it came from. And then I realised that I could impact people more than I ever thought I could. And I just found a real love for it. So I just thought, right, this is where I need to be. So yes, a bit later in life, but I got there in the end. I think that was...
It's irrelevant, really, the time scale. You've done it. That's the main thing, isn't it? It's not... And like you would say to your clients, it doesn't really matter about the ages. You want to feel that way, don't you? You know, it doesn't matter if you're a couple of years older than someone else. It's do you want to get to the result that you wanted?
Yeah.
Right, you're not going to go back to being 15 again, so stop thinking like that.
Yeah.
So obviously you've been to the extremes of competing.
Yeah.
You've obviously from I know your story, you're in the office, unhappy, long hours, pushing yourself. And I know for you personally that the whole being open and vulnerable has always been quite a tough thing. Yeah. Now, we're not going to go down the route of, what's the right word? Is it nationalist? Is it the whole, obviously you're Polish?
Yeah.
And I know that from your side of the family, obviously you said they're quite stern and quite forward.
Very blunt, yeah. Yeah.
you know how it is.
Yeah.
So that then obviously was your defence mechanism. It was I was in this place, you wasn't happy.
Yeah.
But then almost you had to be blunt and bold with it. So it was kind of was that a defence mechanism at the time?
Yeah, so it was a case of it was either admitting defeat and kind of showing people around me that I wasn't happy, or masking it and kind of making sort of trying to mask how I was feeling so nobody could almost clock onto it. So no one would ever be like, oh, do you need something or anything like that. It was more of a case of, right, let's mask it. No one will ever know. I'll just get on with it. Again, and I think that's my attitude towards everything. Don't worry about it. We'll just get on with it. We'll just get it done. However, and I think that does come from my upbringing and being very no nonsense driven. So, and the kind of emotions that I was going through were very, very new. I wasn't used to kind of being affected by something, because I was so used to just just brushing it off and carrying on sort of thing. But I think it got to a point where I couldn't brush it off anymore, and I had to do something about the way I was feeling, and that's kind of, and that's probably why I'm here now. It's been a roller coaster.
It's quite a big moment, isn't it, when you realise that? Like, I remember myself, only because I've written my story recently, and it's kind of like remembering all these things. I literally remember being on a golf tour, and I've been in Scotland for a month, and nothing bad with Scotland, but like, I'd literally been eating crap food the whole time. And I just remember like coming back from, we'd been out, honestly, this naan bread was like the size of my chest.
And
they'd filled it with chicken, chips and rice, and then some other bits and pieces, and then wrapped it up. And that was your dinner. And I was like, it was incredible, but not for the right reasons. It was like everything bad about it. And I never forget getting home, being covered in mud, because we'd gone straight there to go and get food because it was on our way home. And taking my clothes off, looking in the mirror and just seeing how round I was, like spherical. I just remember sitting there and going, what on earth am I doing here? Like, this is, and it's I don't know what your moment was, or if you can really remember it. Like, can you remember it well?
Yeah.
It's like a weird thing if you go from like, how have I let myself get to this?
Yeah.
What am I going to do now, because I have no idea what the alternative is? I'm unhappy as hell. This is going to be hard.
Yeah. I remember my moment. Like, I can tell you it was in October 2019, and I was in Turkey on a family holiday. And I didn't realise, I think I was just I was in so much denial about like where I got to. So I didn't even think about it, but it was an all-inclusive holiday, and I'll never forget this, right? I would be at the breakfast, the lunch, the dinner buffets, the snack bars, everything. But it wasn't up until about 3-4 days in I realised that the only reason I was doing it is because I just felt really, really, really miserable in how I looked. Like, just even putting on a bikini or a swimsuit to like be around the pool and stuff. Now, I'm with my family, right? So no, they don't care. But even just doing that, it just felt like, it just made me feel really crap. And like I said, it was like halfway through the holiday, I realised that I was sat in the patisserie bar thing that they had, and the cakes were amazing. But I was honestly on my third slice of cake, just sitting there, and I was like, what on earth am I doing? And I was like overlooking the ocean. It was amazing. It was a beautiful holiday. And literally at the end of that third slice, I thought, I can't keep doing this, because it's going to spiral even worse and worse and worse. And it was at that moment I realised that actually a lot of the time over the years, when I felt when I felt nervous, when I felt upset, when I felt angry, I would turn to food. But I didn't realise that for years. But that's exactly, and that, I think the reason I ended up in that place was because I let that happen for years without even realising. I think, like I said, I was in denial. And I got back from that holiday and I said, I'm never going away ever feeling like that again. But then I felt really funny about going on all-inclusive holidays, because I didn't think I would have the control. And so for a few years I didn't even book any like all-inclusive holidays or anything like that would potentially lead me back into that place, because I was just so, like, I was just petrified of potentially ever feeling like that again. But that was it. I got back from that holiday. My sister came round and I said to her, right, this is it. Like, there's no turning back now. I can't let this spiral. She took my photos, she did my measurements, everything, and that was that. Wow. That was, so I remember that moment well.
It's crazy. I didn't actually realise until pretty much about 2 months ago that I actually really emotionally ate.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I just never crossed my mind that it was like when I didn't feel great or I wasn't happy, that's what I went and did.
Yeah.
I just thought it was food. Don't get me wrong, like, who doesn't like food? It tastes incredible, like whatever it is. But that's also, I saw it as a measurement of like, why would people think I was capable of doing more, like progress, be attractive? Like, I was with my ex at the time, and I just remember thinking, like, what on earth is she seeing in me?
Yeah.
I must have a great personality. And then I've kind of had to question that as well. The whole thing of it is that you don't realise you're in that place. You don't realise, like, oh, I'm doing this again and again. You just think like, oh, this is nice, this is comforting. Like it. And then it's when you have that moment, you're like, Christ, this all makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And I think this is probably what's interesting about, obviously, we've had a load of business growth. We've known each other for a couple of years now. We've seen a lot of ups and downs with it. This is where it's fascinating, because you still feel like you know so much more. And now someone can say something and you're like, the penny drops and you're like, how did I not see that before?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's something that's like right in front of you, and you're like, oh Christ, that makes a lot of sense. Like, what? How did that happen? So, being quite stern in your way and like being set in your ways and so on, and then you had to make that change from going from like, okay, I was Anna that was unhappy in denial. Other than like a weight loss plan, because obviously like that for me is not like a big thing that I want to talk about. What was the vision that you had of yourself moving forward to get to this place today?
Well, at first, I had no vision of running a business. Like, my ultimate goal was to be able to finally turn around and say, like, yes, I'm good enough, I'm okay, like, I'm attractive, I'm this, like, but not even from, like, the way my body would look. I just wanted to sort of internally feel that, like, I was worthy of just, like, being here and stuff like that. So I think that was the ultimate goal. It wasn't until I realised that I have the ability to impact someone else's life, and that started off by me helping my friends, that I thought to myself, okay, why am I going to change 2 when I can change 200 lives? And I think that's kind of where I thought, right, I need to do something about this. And at the time, like, I was so unhappy with my career at the time, because I had this thing, right? And I remember this, I used to sit around my office, and I was really, really good at my job. Like, everything I put my hand to, I always remember being really good at it, right? And it was just only because I just had this mentality of, like, I have to make this work, and I have to, like... So I used to sit there, and I used to look at, like, older people in my office, and I used to think, I can't be here. I cannot be that person in that position. And that was, like, a big, big driver to me. For some, that's what they want. But that wasn't for me. Like, I just knew that I wanted something more, that I wanted to have more impact. And what I was doing was having no impact. It wasn't really allowing me to use my brain. It wasn't getting me up in the morning. Like, it wasn't doing anything for me at all. Like, at all. And I thought to myself, if I've worked this hard to get myself and my body and my mind in a place of feeling really content with myself, I had to get rid of another thing that was holding me back. And that was, at the time, my 9 to 5. So that was the driving point. It was like, right, I can't be in that position, so I have to go all in. But yeah.
I mean, like exactly the same for me. On the golf tour, every single person than me was older than me.
Yeah.
And all they used to moan about was, I didn't have enough time with my kids.
Yeah.
I'm not happy with this. I don't get to see my wife. And I'm sitting there going, you've built this career. Like, how did you not just change it?
Yeah.
They get so set in their ways, and they're great people. Like, I still talk to some of them now. Like, I can have a good laugh with them, because I think the best bit about that for me, because I was traveling so much, I had to get comfortable with being away from home and get comfortable with knowing people and just having to get on with it like you have. And I think that's a great thing about, even though that sometimes you see it as a hindrance, like, you've always had to get on with it, and you've never... I know you struggle with the vulnerability. I can still see you're sitting there now going, don't talk to me about it, don't talk to me about it, right?
It's fine. I'm getting better.
But it's because you have to get on with it. The pressure's there to do that. You build up a load of proof that you're good enough to do these things. You get success, you get pay rises, you get opportunities. But I suppose there's a big phase, and that's probably what we've gone through, like working together recently, is that you can understand it's okay to not feel perfect every time. Like, I always had to be the younger one that was in charge of everything. I'll never ever forget the moment when a job went wrong, and it was my job that I was in control of, and it was the exact time that we were trying to get a mortgage on the house, or it was either that or the keys for the house, and there was something going on with the house, and we was having trouble with it. And literally in that morning, a pole fell off and hit the driver in the head, split his head open. The person who was running the big screens on the event was just giving me grief because he just wasn't switched on. And I sat at this massive event, and I asked for help, and I didn't get any.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling like I've worked my face off to be in this place where I think when I need it, I should get a bit of help. Sure, I did solve the problem, but that wasn't what I needed in that time. I needed someone who had a bit more of an idea to go, you can do it this way, and probably have saved me a lot of time. And it was only after the event I got back home, and they had a bit of a debrief about it, and they almost tried to bring me down a peg, saying I wasn't capable. And I was like, you guys don't realise how shit you are as managers. Like, you have not tried to support me in one bit. You could have just said, do this, and I would have gone and done it. You didn't. Okay, you've tested my limits, and I proved that I did pretty well, but because I failed on one or two things here, you've looked down on me. I've now got no respect for you.
Yeah.
If you'd stayed in that job and kept trying to build up to that and it wasn't working, you don't have that respect for
Yeah.
it, do you? You don't see
Yeah.
that like, oh, I can move forward with this, I'm going to get somewhere. And so when you're around those types of people, you do suddenly just go, I do not want this life.
Yeah.
I don't want that outcome. I don't want to be you in 10 years' time saying
Yeah.
everything I wish I had done when I was younger.
Yeah. I think for me, it just felt like I think the best way to put it, when you get the hamster on the wheel and it's just never ending. That's what it felt like. And it was like month after month. And obviously I worked in sales, right? And I will forever be grateful for my career, actually, because a lot of the things that I'm capable of doing now and a lot of the skills that I have has come from being in that career. So I'm thankful for that. But I knew I could do more with those skills, and I'm able to kind of use that now in my business. But it just felt like a never-ending cycle of just, right, next month. And you were just living from month to month to month. And I was really successful. So it wasn't even a case of like putting in all the hours but not getting a reward. I was getting the reward. But it wasn't like, it just was not making me happy at all.
It's not satisfying as a
No,
reward. Like financially, it looks great, but also like there's no purpose behind it.
Absolutely no purpose, nothing. Like, yeah, it was, and I just knew that I had to do something. But at the time, I had zero confidence in myself because I gave everything I had into my role. I neglected kind of myself. Like, if someone said to me, when was the last time you went to the gym? It'd be years. Like, I hated the gym. I used to think that, I used to never understand people that were constantly in the gym until I became that person. But I realised, I look back on it, and I think because I had such little confidence in myself, I thought, actually, well, this is what I'm going to do. This is my comfortable place. I know I'm good at this, so let's just carry on. And I think it took me going through my own journey to build that kind of inner confidence to go, no, I can definitely do more.
Yeah. You've opened up to me a lot about the vulnerability side. Can you give us some context to why you do struggle with that?
Let's get comfortable. I don't know. I think it comes from always feeling like I had to be the stronger one. Like whether it's my friends, whether it's like anyone around me, like my parents, my sister. So I was a middle child. And I think throughout life, like my sister needed more help than I did. My brother needed more help than I did. So it was almost like, well, I'm not going to ask for help because they need it more. And I think that's where I kind of built that wall of like, I'm fine. Like, you don't need to ask me how I am today because I'm always fine. It's cool. Even if I'm angry or upset or if I'm going through something, whatever it may be, I'm fine. And that's what I was always used to saying. And I really, really struggled to like kind of be open and like to even just to open up to people around me. Just really, really struggle with it because it felt like a weakness. And it felt like if I show my weakness, then I could potentially not be there for people around me if they need me because they might see me as weak. Because I've opened up and said something's not right. I'm not feeling myself today, or I'm feeling a bit lower today, or, I need help. And I didn't realise actually how long I suppressed my actual true feelings until I think I've said this to you before. I feel like I turned 30 and really become like in tune with like myself and my feelings, and it's probably the first time in my life where I can turn around and say, if I'm upset, it's fine. You've got to let it out. But it's still quite hard. Like I still struggle with it. I still sometimes have this little niggle at me to say, no, you're not this weak person. Like, don't show your weakness. But then it's like, I'm a human being. And I think the pressure of being the rock of everyone around me is kind of, and sort of pushed me to suppress how I felt.
But also, when you're wanting to support other people,
Yeah,
they're seeing you as that person who is consistently strong.
Yeah, like she's got her shit together.
Yeah.
So I felt like I had this pressure to almost show up as that person who's got her shit together, which
it's probably the reason. It's probably also the reason why you fast tracked your growth so much, because you've always had to find solutions quickly.
Yeah.
So you can look at it as a negative and go, well, I've always struggled with vulnerability, but actually because of that, I have become a very fast action taker, which to a lot of people who waste hours but not taking action, it's like you've probably had times where you have wasted hours and go, I can't figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
It's only when you, I suppose, learn to understand the emotion, that little timestamp that you're going through and going, this doesn't feel right. And it is as we've learned, it's not the fact that you're not good enough or you're
Yeah.
not strong enough. It's a challenge on your identity of like, well, I've always been the strong one.
Yeah.
Why am I feeling
Yeah.
flat, low, not capable, not good enough?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to achieve something or someone needs my help. I can't do that today. I
Yeah.
don't feel like I'm in the headspace to do
Yeah.
it. Why is that?
Yeah, and I found it really hard to accept the way I was feeling, and again I did the usual thing, brush it under the carpet. I'm cool, like I can just get on with it, sort of thing. So I think that's like been the pattern, but I didn't realize it until I became really in tune with my feelings. And looking back, it's like, whoa, I've done that for years, and it's like now it's all coming out, and it's all just kind of coming out of me. And you know, if I want to cry, I'll cry. If I want to laugh, I'll laugh. If I'm upset, like I won't hold it in. I feel very, very free now. Like I can just kind of just let it all out, which before felt like I was letting people around me down because I'd be maybe like less of a support or less of a rock because maybe I just wasn't functioning from like the best place. That's
It means a lot to you to support others, doesn't it?
yeah. Yeah.
Why's that?
I said to myself I was going to get through this podcast without any tears. I don't know, I just hate seeing people unhappy, or I hate seeing people like not in a good place, because it just, I know how crap it feels. So I think just wanting to maybe just, even if it's just one extra person that doesn't have to feel like really unhappy with themselves, that gives me like, that's just my favourite thing. There's nothing can beat that feeling. Nothing can beat that feeling.
Is it a case of almost feeling like you're helping the younger self as well that was
Yeah,
feeling?
yeah. A lot of the girls that I work with, like, they come to me in a position that I was once in. So a lot of the time I'll speak to them and like I develop a really good bond with them, and it is like looking back, and it's like, right, we can't keep you in that place because that's not where you want to be. That's not sustainable, and you there is a way out, and I found that way out. So there's no reason why you can't. Because I, like, in my head, I'm like, I'm not special. I'm not like, I don't have like these magic powers, and that's why I'm here today. Like, I just never gave up on myself. I think that's the difference.
And you did the hard work.
Yeah. So it's kind of showing people that, yes, it's hard work, and oh my God, there's so many obstacles when you are really kind of trying to find your true self, when you're really trying to find what makes you really happy. And that is like weight loss aside, like that's just a superficial thing that happens as a byproduct of you doing something for you. But when you're trying to figure out who you are and you're trying to find that inner kind of being that you can be really happy with, it's a really tough process. And there's a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of doubts, like so many doubts. But it's something that I kind of put myself through, and like I never look back. I never look back, because I got myself in a position where I'm not that person that will be in that office at the age of 40, 45, 50. I'm not that person anymore. I took myself out of that environment. But it wasn't by luck. It was by it was just hard work. And even when I was close to giving up, I never did. I don't know, I just had this tiny little, like, even if it was a really faint voice, it always said, don't do it, don't give up. Even though the voice that was telling me to give up was a lot louder.
What's your vision now for yourself? Because like you've done, I mean, especially in the last couple of months,
Yeah.
you've done incredible things. But like, what's 5-10 years down the line looking like for you? What's that vision that?
I always struggle thinking ahead. Like, almost like if I make these plans, it feels like a real big pressure on myself. But I think for me, it's like I never want to stop impacting people's lives, but I also want to be in a position where I'm enabling people to be in this position like me, to impact lives, so that we can kind of like you know, spread our sort of positive kind of like message, spread it far and wide, and just keep helping that extra person that is just really stuck. That's like, I think it's just knowing that there's so many people out there that are just kind of fighting against themselves. I think that's the best way to put it. Like, they're fighting against themselves, and they're so scared of failing that they don't even bother even trying a little bit. So I just want to be in that position where we're spreading that positive kind of message to say, like, you've got, like, if I can do it, like, so can you. Because I say it to everyone, like, I wasn't special. I just didn't give up. So.
And on that note,
yeah.
So we had our Identity Unlocked meetup last week.
Yes.
Last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever it was.
A couple of weeks ago.
And you got to share a bit of your story in front of people, which I know for you was a bit threw you under the bus massively.
Yeah, you did.
Like, cheers for that.
Yeah, thanks.
From that girl who was, I guess, scared of not achieving, scared of letting people down, and also, I guess, a little bit lost in herself.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. Yeah.
How did it feel to have other people in the room looking up to you, especially like business owners?
That was like a completely alien feeling to me, because again, like, I now believe that I'm able to impact people's life, but there's still, like, I just didn't think that someone sitting next to me will be like, do you know what, I really hope to be in that position one day. I really hope to be in your position. Because I felt like most of my life I'd be looking at other people going, oh, maybe one day I'll be there. So it felt strange, but it felt really good. Like, it just felt like I was like, do you know what, that's why I didn't give up. Because I was supposed to be sat in a room sharing, like, my story and sharing, like, all my ups and downs. And then someone literally going, I really hope to be in that position one day. That to me was just like, it was like the first kind of experience of feeling true, like someone being actually inspired by me, which was very weird, but really, like, pretty amazing at the same time.
Go home smiling the whole way, like, I did it, Mum.
Yeah,
Mum, I did it.
I made it. Yeah, it was strange, but I think it actually lit like a complete new fire in my belly, and it was so unexpected, because I thought, yeah, it'll be fun. We'll have a nice time. We'll train together, and it'll be great. And then I didn't realise I'd walk away from that. And I actually remember driving home, and I was driving home. It was like a 3-hour drive, and I just kept smiling. And so I was listening to a podcast, and the whole time I was listening to it, but I wasn't really listening to it, because I was just like, what a great day. Like, I need more of these days. I need to feel like I need to have this more. Like, I was like, this is the sort of thing that, like, will get me up in the morning.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was really cool.
It's because obviously on that day we went and trained.
Yeah.
You got to, obviously you've been around Grace, who's obviously competed, and she's obviously on a previous podcast that I haven't yet released, but will be by the time this one's released. And you got to be around someone who you can look up to, but also learn a lot from.
Yeah.
And you're hearing the other girls' stories. Like, was it nice to not feel alone, but also have someone you could just go, their journey's different, but I also gain so much from you and push you forward?
Yeah. I think like, I listen to people's stories, and you know, some of them are like heart-wrenching. Like, some of them are just, they're incredible stories, and you see people come through the other side. And it does sometimes make me feel like, oh, I didn't have it that bad. But then I need to remember that it's all relative to your own, like, to yourself and to your life. And what I maybe was going through was really bad for me, but it probably wouldn't be so bad for someone else. But then you listen to other people's stories. And I think I had to keep reminding myself that we've all got our own stories. But the one thing that we've all got in common is that we've all come out the other side. Not by luck, but by just not giving up. So it's the not giving up that I'm like, as long as I keep that mentality, I can't fail. That's kind of my I cannot give up. I feel like it's something that I will take to my grave, and I will live by it, stand by it, and I try and instill into all my clients, because I think it pushes them way beyond where they thought it was even possible. And it pushes them to feel a certain way that they never thought was even possible, which is pretty epic.
And when we had that training session,
Yeah.
we were pushing you.
Yeah. Shit myself a little bit, I'm not going to lie.
But was that good to then almost be pushed to a failure where it was like it was a forward failure of like you can do more, not like, oh, you're going to lose all of this for once. It was like, no, you're around people that want you to be stronger and even better.
Yeah.
It's like you're trying to fail forwards.
Yeah. I used to be really scared to be around people that maybe have been better than me or smarter than me or, you know, whatever it may be, prettier than me, whatever. I used to be really scared about that environment. Now I openly put myself in an environment of people that are smarter than me, that have done more than me, that are stronger than me, that, you know, like, for example, from Grace's point of view, they've competed and then been really successful. Like, that would really petrify me. I'd be like, no, I can't do that. I'm not on that level. There's no way. Now it's like, right, I need to keep putting myself in that position. And, like, I think I was more, like, worried about not being able to keep up. And obviously I'm quite competitive in that sense. But actually what I realised that whole session is that I realised that my body is actually capable of more than I was potentially even doing up until that session. I always felt like I was pushing in my sessions until I get a session like that and you're like, no, you've got more. But ever since then, my training sessions have gone like just crazy. I don't even know where it's coming from. And I'm pushing like reps and weights that I wouldn't even bother attempting. And I thought, no, I'm going to try. Like, you've got to try. So it showed me that my body's capable of more. But also, like, I used it as a learning. Like, I learned so much in that session. And there's nothing wrong in that. And if there's nothing wrong in not knowing something and then asking somebody and learning from someone.
Well, it's like your clients would reach out to you going, I don't know how to manage this.
Yeah.
And they might feel stupid asking it and you might give them a relatively straightforward response. But it's only simple now because you've done it and you're like, well, yeah, just do this. And like, of course.
Yeah.
But when you're in that moment, it was like, I remember saying to you, like, you get to the end of that rep and you almost like drop it because you're just scared of, and we're like, no, that's the bit where you get the growth. That's the bit like hold on through it, like drive through it. And I remember seeing you do like the lat pull down and you were like struggling through with it, but it was like, we were then seeing the real Anna. It was, you can push more, you can do more. You've got someone there who you admire that's pushing you harder and you're like, now this is where my space is. This is, I've earned the right to be next to people that are going to push me forward, want the best out of me. And it's not, there's no comparison. It's not like, oh, you're doing X amount a month or you're lifting this amount of weight. It's like, you're here, we're all here together. That's, I love the phrase that if I'm eating, we're all eating. Yeah. It's like, if I'm winning, you're winning.
Exactly, yeah.
And, you know, if you're looking at a team and all of that, like your weakest point is the weakest team member. So if you pull them up with you, and it's not saying you were the weakest in that moment, but it was like, Anna, you need to see more of this, what you're capable of. And then you come away from that, have 2 weeks of great training. You're like, now what else am I capable of? Yeah. You know, to the extent that you've even booked a trip to go away with them just because you're like, right, girls,
I'm coming.
A, I need to talk more nonsense, and also B, I need you to push me harder.
Yeah, like I think since Portugal, I realised how important it is to keep putting yourself in a room with people that will push you. Like, I need to be pushed. I need pressure. I need to be pushed. I need someone to almost be in my ear sometimes to just go, no, you've got more. Because I know I've got more. But it's when you hear that, you're like, no, I actually have got more. And you push more. And whether that's like that rep, whether that is, growing your business beyond maybe where you thought you were capable of doing, or impacting someone's lives in more ways than none, I know I've got more. But I've only really started to realise that when I've put myself in a room of people that are better than me, stronger than me, I'm not shying away from that anymore, whereas I used to. Because I used to go down the route of comparing. Well, hang on a sec, if they've got X amount of clients, then, I'm not good enough. I need to be at that level if I'm going to sit there in a room with them. Or, well, she's a British champion. God, I'm not even going near that. That would be my attitude.
Whereas now
it's like, no, put me in that room. Like, I might not be at that level, but that's what I'm striving for. And it's only by being around those people that I'm going to get to that level. Where, like I said, from all aspects, like training, life, business, anything really.
I've recently invested into the business mastermind, hence why the identity unlock come out. And like we said, you had that one session last week, and then on every session's been mega. when I met up with Phil and then he said the word identity to me,
Yeah.
and it was like everything clicked into place. If you had said it to me, I probably wouldn't have get it. When someone else from that next level up was saying to me, most people don't know their own identity, and I was like,
that's it.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, like, I've always been able to bring that out of people, but I never
Yeah.
put the connection. And then all of a sudden it's opened up into this.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to find ways of pushing through those limits and being around people that will or know that you're capable of more.
Yeah.
It's not you going. And I think also me, you, and Grace have probably all got this in common. We're actually fairly comfortable.
Yeah.
And so the only reason why we need to push more and have more is because we know we're capable of more.
Yeah.
It's not because there's nothing in me that needs an extra 10k.
Yeah.
There's nothing in me that needs the latest Gucci, whatever.
Exactly.
It's the fact that to be able to get there takes the type of person that pushes through every boundary. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because I also know the flip side of it is that, you probably feel this as well, is that, okay, you've had times where your business has moved and changed in ways that made you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, that was probably still better than what you would have been doing, even if it was at a lower income, than what you were doing before. So in the reality of it, okay, this is crap, I don't feel great about it, I'm looking at it and it like I've failed.
Yeah.
In the flip side of it, you started your own business, and even if it's not going as well, you're still at home being able to live a life. You've got a lovely house, like you're living fairly good.
Yeah.
You have got options, and we're all chasing growth.
Yeah. And I think that's where when things aren't going the way you want them to, it immediately takes you back to, oh no, I'm failing. Like straight away. And sometimes it's easier to go, okay, yeah, no, I'll make that decision if I'm failing. So if I say now I'm done, at least I've made that decision and I'm more in control of that decision. And that's probably why I was that close to packing it all in just only a few months ago. So
can we dig into that a little bit?
Yeah, we can, yeah.
Because I know, like, especially for the people who listen, and also I'm sure all of the girls that you now work with are grateful that you haven't given up, right? You wasn't happy.
Mm-mm.
The first time I've seen you be vulnerable, really vulnerable.
Yeah.
I wasn't even expecting it as well.
Yeah.
I have to admit, you just turned around and broke out into tears. We're in the middle of a group shoot and you just looked at me and...
Yeah, I couldn't hold it in anymore.
What happened in that moment? And out of interest, I know this is quite a... This is going to be like, why in front of me?
I think at that moment, I had that realisation that I was very close to quitting. And I think then I saw my clients at the shoot celebrate everything and just like being vulnerable, being exposed, being open. And
your sister as well.
And, watching my sister, which is another story in itself. And then I think you looked at me and I think you said, is everything okay? You must have seen it in my eyes. I don't know. I think where we've worked together for quite a while now, I think you kind of know when things are not right or like when they're maybe not where they kind of need to be or where they usually are. And I had that moment of realisation that I thought, wow, I nearly packed this in a few weeks ago. And then I'm standing here with 5 of my clients just like letting themselves completely go and just letting themselves be themselves. And how could I have given that up? And I think that's when, when you asked me, it all just came crashing down. And I thought, right, okay, this is my moment. I'm just going to cry. And then it just all left. But again, it was very freeing because I wouldn't normally.
You had to be vulnerable then.
Yeah. Yeah. But then, I saw my clients be vulnerable. And it's like, if they can be vulnerable with me, then I need to be able to be vulnerable with them or with myself even.
It's also to connect with them better.
Yeah.
Like they're sharing insecurities and you're like, well, I hold all of mine back.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I felt so much pressure to be the perfect coach, to be like really well polished, to have everything figured out, to have everything together, that I felt like me maybe opening up that things aren't so great would mean that I was a bad coach, that maybe I couldn't support them with their struggles because I wasn't able to deal with mine. But I've realised that I become more of a role model when I show my struggles because I'm always finding ways to get through them. Mm. And it's like, okay, I'm going to use this as my superpower and say, right, you might be feeling like this today, but tomorrow's a different day. And it's like, you can do this in order to make sure you don't feel like this. So I think I'm starting to realise that it's not a weakness. It's something that I can really, it's it's a superpower to be able to get through those lower days, those darker days.
I'm guessing also you found some of that from being in Portugal, because that was a big thing we spoke about.
Yeah.
I threw Danny this question.
Okay. Oh, God. You're not going to ask me to close my eyes, are you?
No.
Okay, good.
But what did you say to her when you had to hug her?
Oh, no. I knew you were going to go there.
What did you say to the girl that you were from being who you are today?
What did I say? God, you have definitely thrown me a curveball here. Do you know what? I said to her that, like, there'll be a time where you'll be really, really proud of it, like yourself. And just even being in Portugal, I think that was like a big moment, because I literally booked my flights, 3 days before it all was happening, because I was just so convinced that I couldn't be in a room with all those successful people. And I remember sitting there when we closed our eyes, and the first thing was, I was just like, God, that girl would be so proud. Like, she'd be so proud of, like, me. That would probably be, like, the first thing that I would say.
And then what was the rest of what you said to her? Just say it, it's okay.
What did I say to her? It's okay to not always be in control. And it's sometimes okay to just ride the wave. And it's okay to be open, and it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to just not have everything figured out. I think I was just I just wanted to be perfect at everything, like always have. I'm a competitive person. And I think a lot of it, the trying to be perfect is something that, if I look back, has held me back more than actually getting me to a place I wanted to. Because I would stop myself doing things unless it was like 100% there. So, yeah.
It was
That nervous laugh, isn't it?
It's amazing to see how you still... But you do push through.
Yeah.
I can see how vulnerable you feel.
Yeah,
your body language
this is
just...
new. I've never done a podcast before. But I think it will go back to what I said. Like, it just feels so good. I feel so much lighter just chatting, just talking, and just saying what's actually on my mind, and not suppressing it or hiding it, and just letting it be free and out there.
And a lot of that movements and the body language is almost you just finding a comfortable space to feel it in.
Yeah.
It's I go back, my best mate, Jamie, when I did his best man speech, I've never been nervous about talking in front of people. The whole speech, I just itched my ribs.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know why. I had no itch there. I didn't need to itch them. But you're finding that comfortable space to then learn, what is this? Like, this better be good. And it was almost in that moment, I was like, yeah, doing a speech is not a problem. Then when I stood there, I was like, hang on, this is I better get this right. Like, this better not go wrong. And it is, you're under that pressure because you do want to provide, you do want to be better, you do want to be a role model, and you don't want to let people down, you don't want to let yourself down, because you can deal with letting yourself down to a certain extent, but then it has to change. You have to then go, right, well, I've got to grab hold of this.
Yeah.
You know, what is this telling me? I'm feeling like crap here. I'm nervous. I can't do this. Why?
Yeah.
It can't be that I just physically can't do it, because there's nothing you physically can, you know, I'm listing stupid heavy weights or whatever it is, but it's like, there's nothing to stop you doing what you want to do. There never has been. No,
it's always been me. I think at the moment I feel like I am operating like an average person, that's like, it throws me off. I start to really doubt whether I'm capable of pushing through, or like, I just have this weird fear.
Did that come from school?
Of being average?
Or did that come from like just the family dynamic, or like?
I think it came from a bit of both, to be honest. Like,
Do you ever remember like where like it, just that feeling of potentially being average?
So like, when I started school, I didn't speak English. So English is my second language, and I remember like walking into this school, I knew how to say hello, thank you, and goodbye. So I knew 3 words, and a few others, but we won't go down there. I was very young. And I remember walking through these doors, and I thought, well, I'm never gonna make any. I'm never gonna make it. I'm never gonna do something like. We're talking. I was very young still, but in my head I was like, well, I'm never gonna be able to speak the way everybody speaks. They've all made friends. They're all chatting, and I never knew what they were saying. So I had to go into a separate class with a tutor to go through and teach me English from basics. Like, we're looking at a photo of a cat, and okay, right, say cat. Like, I almost sometimes forget when I didn't, like, when I forget the fact that I at one point couldn't communicate like this, like in this country. So I think that fear of like not making it probably came from that.
Is it a safety thing of like being, because obviously you've come over to a different country, had to learn how to speak the language, and you're trying to fit in, and you want to have a future, like eventually, you know, at that age, like boyfriend or whatever that. Is it a safety thing?
Yeah, I think I genuinely believed that I was never going to make it because I was never on that level of, like, the way they spoke English. I never spoke that way. Like, I had an accent at one point, which I don't know where it's gone. And I think I think that fear of not making it or being a bit average, it probably comes way back from that moment. And I was like 7 years old. So it's a long time. And then as I kind of picked up the language and I got more comfortable with it, again, built my confidence with it. Because at one point I kind of knew how to speak, but I had no confidence to speak because I thought I would say it wrong and people would make fun of me. So it's like, it's getting past that barrier and building up your confidence. Actually, no, you're doing this right. You've spent years trying to learn this language. Like, you've got this. And then I remember going into like my last year of primary school, and like I was just getting, like, I wouldn't say bullied, but I was getting really picked on because like because I was Polish, and at the time it was quite, you know, big thing about like Eastern Europeans coming over to the UK and stuff. So I was getting picked on, and I just thought, oh, it's probably because I speak differently, and I don't speak the way they do. So maybe that's why they think I'm weird, different. So I think that it probably stems from that. And actually saying it now makes so much sense. I don't think I've ever put those two, like, these things together the way I have just now. That's just come completely out of nowhere. I think that this is probably the first time you're hearing this.
But it kind of makes sense because I know that you've explained to me, like, obviously your dad's, you're pretty much your role model, your life, but like he's a solid figure in your life, and I know that your mum's more of like the emotional side of it.
Yeah.
And obviously you've taken clearly some of your emotions from your mum, but obviously they had to learn to connect with them more.
Yeah.
Your dad's always been the stern, tough one that you've had to like lean against, which has probably got you the reason why you have here. But also, it's funny how you'd probably look back at it now and you're almost thankful the fact that you were picked on and bullied at that stage to get you to this place, but you'd never want to go back through it.
No, but I think the one thing I will say though is, now that when I look back on it, like, this is all quite new, like, these are quite new things that are just coming up to the surface, to be honest. Now I'm like, do you know what? Even at the age of 7, God, I was resilient. And like, I need to keep remembering that, because I do get moments where I lose myself a little bit, and I did, and I lost myself at the beginning of the year. And I sometimes forget how resilient I am, and like how much like power I actually do have, and I forget that, like, a lot. And I think even just by talking about it now, I'm like, that 7-year-old girl was just like, she was great. Like, she just, like, it got to a point where I was picked on, and like, I think my dad made a joke, I think it was my uncle actually, like, someone picks on you, just kick them. So I did. And I thought to myself, that's it, I'm always going to stand up for myself. But no one ever picked on me after that. So that was pretty cool.
There we go. Life lessons with Hannah.
Just kick them.
I always do this with every guest.
Okay.
What's a question you've got for me? You've got to know me over the last few years, seen a lot of me in terms of the family, business, mindset, just friends, community, all of that stuff. I'm intrigued. What's a question you've got for me?
Ooh, okay. If, let's just say you didn't find it in you to move away from the golf side of things, where do you think you'd be today if you didn't take that step?
Right. The golf, the weird thing, I actually enjoyed the people and the work that we did. The biggest thing that I would find now is knowing how much I could give to Dylan and Lila now and what I wouldn't have been able to give them if I carried on. I would have been away from home for 6 months of the year. I mean, I'd like to think in 10 years I would have got some sort of promotion or some sort of change, but if I was still in that position, it would be horrible to think about all these lives. I mean, I never would have met you.
Yeah.
Never would have met anyone doing this lot.
No, I'd probably still be in my job.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? And just to think that from leaving that position, trusting in myself, doing it the hard way, the thought for me of investing into someone else to teach me things, I never had the money to do it.
Yeah.
I never had that I could pay X amount of money and get the answer. And you always thought, that was just a sales ploy to just take my money off of me. And of course, I've never really like I said, I enjoyed the people and the work that we did. It was, I'm not being funny, it's putting TVs on walls. It's not that difficult. It's more just physical.
Yeah.
And I think that you'll probably agree with this as well. It's not necessarily going into the corporate world that would be difficult again. It's more the politics.
Yeah.
All the bullshit that you put up with of all of this stuff. And you're thinking, I do not want to be dealing with it. I'd rather not make as much money and just have my own little world to deal with instead of going back into, this is what this person says, so this is why we have to do this. Like nowadays, you're like, no, just do this.
Yeah. I think, you're right. I think it was like, for me, it was more, I just felt like a robot. And it was just, I was in autopilot. And it was like getting on the same train, pretty much sitting on the same seat, seeing the same miserable faces, walking into the office, like seeing the same people, doing the same thing. Nothing changed. And every time, like, there was, I feel like my brain wasn't utilised in the way that it could have been. And like it was just constant. And then you come home, you go to bed, you wake up, you do the exact same thing, you get on the same train. You get on this, you sit on the same seat. And it was like, there goes a year, there's another year. And nothing, there's just nothing happening.
I think that was the biggest frustration for me. It's just like, where do I actually go? Where do I move forward?
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that they didn't give me the promotion or it was actually just a pay rise that I wanted. It wasn't a promotion. I just wanted a pay rise. I'm so happy they didn't give it to me now. Yeah. At the time, I was furious. Yeah. You've never really seen me angry. I was like genuinely livid. Yeah. I'd done everything I could. But in that moment, that was exactly what I needed to know, that I did everything I could. Yeah. If they weren't prepared to give it to me, then I'll find it myself. Yeah. And the stupid thing is now with what we've been able to generate and the knowledge I've got now, if I'd done that in their business, I'd have made them a fortune. Yeah. And it wouldn't have cost them that much compared to what... And that's what's amazing about all of this, is when you actually do allow yourself, like you did, the space to grow, to challenge yourself, to have... And also, I suppose someone believed in you. Yeah. Like, I knew that it wasn't the fact that you couldn't do it, because it never is the fact that you couldn't do it. It's just the fact that you needed a space to go, no.
Yeah. I think I just need that extra little push. And it was the same like when it came to quitting my job. It took me like 9 months because I just couldn't bring myself to move away from that safety net and knowing that I was good at that job and I was always going to be fine with it. And it was just having like that little push, just a little nudge in the right direction goes a long way.
It's almost, what's interesting about this is you like talking there, like you said, you were unhappy with your weight and size, but as you've proven, that's a relatively quick fix in the grand scheme of things. Yeah. Sometimes actually having the safety net is more of a hindrance than it is actually, or it's comparable to being in a, obviously we're not going to compare like having a safety net to having some sort of major adversity in your life that's like awful. Yeah. But it can be just as debilitating for someone who has no idea of the concept of it. Like you had a safety blanket. Yeah. To leave that, to move away, to trust yourself, to find a way to get safety, security, all that stuff. It can be just as hard having that safety blanket as it is having something that's happened to you and you think you're not good enough, or why me, or like, should I carry on, and all that stuff. And when you see it as the alternative, like, no, actually, if I take this away, I can go and find this for yourself, which now you've had more progress, you've helped more women, you're happier, like you're messaging me going, Ben, the money's great, but I'm not stressing. Like,
Yeah.
I feel seeing you smile,
Yeah.
feel happy is
Yeah.
the best thing.
Yeah. Which, like, if we go back 2-3 months ago, I thought that was it for me. Like, that's probably the closest I've been to really giving up on myself. Like, we're talking, yeah, we were close. Like, I was a day away from just calling it a day and just, yeah.
Well, I speak for myself, and also I imagine your clients and future clients are
Yeah.
happy that you didn't.
Yeah, no, I'm glad I didn't. But I do sometimes think these kind of ups and downs, sometimes the downs are quite important.
Massively.
Because you do learn a lot from them, I think. And again, I'm armed with more experience to help my clients to go into those moments of giving up in whichever
Well,
aspect.
to be a role model, you can't tell people how to be strong in moments you've never had to be strong in.
Yeah.
You needed a time where, like, you were prepared to give it all up, and I'm sure people, you know, and we're talking about you just going back to a career, let alone like being in a relationship where you can't find the way out, or you are in a job that you're massively unhappy with, or your weight's so bad that you're struggling to breathe and move and stuff like that. You know, you're talking about here that you need to have been through those things, because when you can talk from a place of authenticity and also like, no, I know how shit that feels.
Yeah.
Don't worry, like,
Yeah.
you know that moment you doubted yourself, you looked at someone and think he or she's nice, but
Yeah.
I can't get with them. I look at me.
Yeah.
I know how that feels.
Yeah.
I know how it feels to not have anyone believe in you, to be overweight, to be lost, to be confused, not feel like you're attractive, never be able to create something. You know, like even when Jade and I were talking about children, I wasn't worried about having children. I never once worried about Jade falling pregnant. I know she did.
Yeah.
I was more worried about how the fuck am I going to be a good dad?
Yeah.
I wasn't worried about having sex and creating a baby. Like, that's the easy bit in some elements. Like, I mean, as you've got issues that unfortunately you know people go through, it was like, how am I going to get away from working 60, 80-hour weeks to actually be a dad that is a dad and is there and have time? And as you've known through the whole process of us working together, having time to just a little bit of time for you.
Yeah.
And I know you always call my shoots therapy.
They are.
But look where it's got to. It's got you to a place where someone just sees a different version of you, and you think, wow, it's so easy to lose that.
Yeah. I don't think, well, I wouldn't be sat here today, like, talking about where I'm at and stuff if I didn't, it was that confidence challenge. And like, I at that point, even after the first shoot, a few months after, I didn't realise, like, the impact that moment had now. And I think, because really up until that point, that was when I was just starting off the business. I had no belief in me. I was like, oh, this is not going to work. But it's fine because I've got my job. So we'll just do it as a fun project. We'll just do it as a little side hustle. That was like the dream. It's just to have a side hustle. And then literally fast forward a year and you're like, I'm walking away from that safety net and thinking, no, I can throw myself into this. But I don't think if I didn't put myself out there for those, like, that confidence challenge, the shoots, I wouldn't have that confidence in me to be able to do it. And I wouldn't have the ability to dim that little voice in your head going, don't bother. I think that's been, like, massive.
And you're also utilising that voice now to go, no, there's more.
Yeah, there is more. Like, I know there is more, and I'm not nervous about it. I'm not scared about it. I'm just really excited. And I haven't felt this excitement really for a long, long time. Which again, like, it feels so good. Like, it feels like I am exactly where I need to be, doing exactly what I'm doing, and everything else, like, everything will just fall into place. I've just got to turn up as the very best version of me. I've got to turn up for my clients. I've got to just turn up in life, and everything else will follow. I think that's like my big lesson over the last few months is just, like, be yourself, turn up as you, and, like, it will just be a domino effect of great opportunities and good things happening.
I was going to ask you, what would you advise you
God,
give to
I mean,
someone?
there's loads.
But that was a wicked way to sum it up.
Yeah.
Honestly, as a friend, I'm super proud of you.
Thanks.
I know that you pushed hard. I know even at the start of this, your body language is massively
just
different now. Like,
relaxed now,
it's over. I've done it.
Yeah, woo.
But also, like, you are a testament to what it means to challenge yourself, to think past the objections, to see more potential, to have that confidence to impact people's lives.
Yeah.
And also be a role model to people that you've got no idea about.
Yeah. But I guess me, and I can probably speak for a lot of the coaches that you've come to work with, and I think we're only able to, like, we're able to do what we do and the way we impact people because you push us that way. And, like, because you believe that we could. And I think, yeah, so thank you.
What a way to finish a podcast. I'll pay you the tenner afterwards, right? If they want to find you on social media, where can they find you?
God, I nearly forgot my Instagram name. It's @anna.maria.fitness.
Amazing. So thank you very much for coming on the podcast. I hope you ladies and gents enjoyed that. And I look forward to sharing some more insights with you very soon.
Thank you.